Joes.
Welcome to the Regular Joes podcast. I'm Dave Pisani.
I'm Barry Kay.
I'm Todd Pleasant.
And I'm Tom Spina.
Hey, Tom's back on the show.
Hey, everybody.
We've talked to you, but we haven't talked to you on the show in a while. So welcome, Tom.
Thank you. Yeah, it has been a while since I've been on the show. I feel like I'm trying to remember the last time I was on. I think we did a virtual, the last one.
Yep.
Yes. I know we've done it here at my place. We've done it at the studio.
Yeah, I think the last time we did it was on Zoom.
Remember?
But
Yeah,
it wasn't
so.
Zoom. Yep.
Yeah, Zoom down in the display room.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, great to be back. Thanks for having me again.
No, always a pleasure. I mean,
do I get a free sandwich at some point? Is this like one of those punch card situations?
Yes, exactly. At some
Punch
point,
card,
you'll get
yes.
a free Subway sandwich, a Regular Joe's sandwich. We're opening sandwich shops across the country.
Right.
I feel like Regular Joe's sandwich shop. Like I'd eat there. That's a great name
Roast
for a
beef
sandwich shop.
On white bread. No, I don't know.
Yeah, it's all like it's literally just white bread sandwiches.
Well, and what's funny is that because I know two of you very well, both Tom and Dave are very particular about what they eat. So it would have to be
Okay.
Yeah.
Tom, I didn't know you. Are you particular about what you eat? I did not know that.
Oh yeah. No, I'm the bane of my family's existence
Oh,
growing
me
up,
too.
and now the
we
bane of
need
everyone
to go
else's.
out we need to go out to eat sometime and just to see who's more picky.
That's right. Yeah.
I've eaten with both of you. I'd say you're probably about the same.
Really? I've never met someone as picky as
I can't believe you would insult Dave like that. That's
no.
I
wear
will
it as a
often
badge
switch
of
my
honor.
order to what Dave's getting because he puts so much thought into it.
Yeah.
It's like
It must be good. I mean, he really thought about this. Yeah.
I'll pick the
I'm better
third
than I
item in the
used to
menu, and then Dave's like totally analyzes it and says, and I'm like,
But then
Yeah.
he's watching what I'm eating and he's like, but what Barry got looks more interesting.
No, I don't look like that. When my son was, growing up, he's 21 almost, and we'd go to like the in-laws or the whatever, and like, the rule in this house when he was a little kid, you have to try everything just to see if you like it or not. And I said, The rule in my house is if you don't like the way it looks, you don't have to eat it.
wow.
And that's my rule.
Okay.
I always went by smell. Like,
Really?
there's plenty of food that doesn't look great, but at least tastes good. But like, you can tell by smelling something if you want to eat it or not. Like,
I'm a
that's like
texture
just
guy.
animal instinct.
There's a lot of texture I don't like. That's
No, for me, it's all about taste. I know, different people are like, oh, I can't eat tomatoes because of the texture or whatever. For me, it's literally like it's just purely smell and then taste on certain foods, and
So
it's
give us a
unfortunately
no way, no
it's enough key ingredients that it winds up eliminating all sorts of stuff for me. And it's
Wow, nice. I like that. We're gonna have to go
Tom,
off.
what's a no way, no
sometime.
how? Just wouldn't go there would be
that's garlic for me. Is
okay,
like the
so
number
that's what I
one
was
no way,
wondering.
no
I was
how.
Trying to get it. Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
garlic? Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that. Fish? Do you eat fish?
No. That's more of a just like a general taste thing. But like for when it comes to you get into ingredients and stuff, garlic is the one where it's just like if I walk into someone's house and they just like cooked something with the tiniest bit of garlic in it, like just literally the smell of it, I'm like, I'll just wait out here, thanks.
That's because you're a vampire and you just don't want to admit it.
I didn't want to say anything as we're doing this late night recording of a
why are we only
podcast just
talking
to
to
fit
you
with
at
my
night?
schedule.
Why does he?
It's odd. It's only
do this at
nighttime.
night?
This is true. We've never seen Tom during the day.
I've never seen him during
Yeah.
the day. Why do you sleep on a bunch of dirt? What's up
Right.
with that?
Yeah,
It's comfortable, okay? Conforms to my body.
Yeah.
that's
God,
right.
you're picking on the what he eats. You're complaining about where he sleeps. Come on,
Yeah.
he's our guest. Be nicer to him.
Anyway, I just I have a kindred spirit here. We'll have to go to a restaurant and pick out the most simple thing.
I
You're
wonder
never
if it
gonna
wouldn't
fill
be
out your punch
amazing.
card.
Yeah, if we all just like we each just didn't like different things.
Yeah.
And like just managed to eliminate all of the food between the two of us, and it's like, well, that's it, we're
That
gone.
could be interesting.
Right.
That could be
Or
fun.
there was one place we could all eat, but nobody liked it.
Yeah, it's just not good.
Right.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
All right. Well,
we
that's
need to talk
the.
about
Okay,
food.
one last question. How many? Okay, so Dave, you have a brother.
Uh-huh.
How many siblings do you have, Tom?
Just one,
Just one.
a sister.
See, there's some enabling going on here. See, I came from a family of 5 kids.
Oh yeah.
In my household, the rule was you reach or you starve.
Right.
Okay. It was in the middle of the table. If you didn't take it, it's like there was always cereal. But,
I was fine starving, though. I didn't care.
Yeah.
Right.
Didn't bother me. I mean, I don't look at that now, but now I control what I eat. So I only eat the stuff I like.
Right.
But
yeah, it's like I have no problem. Like I enjoy eating and the stuff I love to eat, but it's just it's
okay.
It's a little
Now
bit limited.
here's the real last question. Your
Okay.
favorite meal? What's your favorite meal?
Oh, favorite meal. So it's kind of a challenging meal because I absolutely love pizza,
Okay.
but very often you go into a pizza place and they load up the sauce with garlic,
Yep.
or there's, they put a little on there. So it's like, it's almost like, when we moved here, we had to do like the pizza challenge, and it was like, all right, let's just get a pie from a bunch of different places and see who's in the clear. But yeah, like I get there's a few places we absolutely love. They've got, no garlic in their sauce, and it's just, oh man, I could eat pizza all the damn time.
Okay. Fair enough.
What's really
enough.
funny
We used
is
to
that
joke.
this show tends to go sideways all the time, but this may be the first time
Maybe
it ever
the
went
earliest.
this sideways this fast.
Maybe
This early.
I was-
I'll,
Yep. So,
and I feel, I feel personally attacked. I think I'm just going to go out on.
We have a connection that's even.
That's right.
deeper
That's right.
than
Look,
props
Barry
in
and Todd
Star
just
Wars.
don't get it.
Yeah.
Okay,
True, clearly.
they don't know.
Well,
The struggle.
I've probably eaten more meals with you than these other two guys have. So
That's true.
yeah, no question.
You have your own dietary limitations.
This is true. Yeah,
True.
we haven't even gone into my dietary restrictions. But
That's right. Yes, that's while you're casting stones in that room full of glass shelves.
That's right.
But somehow I'll eat probably the widest variety of food out of all of you. So
I think you will.
Almost
Yeah.
certainly. Yeah.
all right.
Okay.
This
Enough
is
of
the
that.
Regular Joe's podcast.
Yeah.
We should. This sounds more like the irregular Joes. I guess it depends on what you eat.
Say,
You know?
yeah, this
We
is
should start a sort of a limited food eaters podcast.
Support.
That's right. So we'll have the regular Joe's sandwich shop. You'll have the irregular Joe's, I assume like a laxative or something, something to give
softener,
folks
yeah.
to keep them moving.
Yeah.
Because of all the cheese that's on the sandwiches, I assume.
A lot of cheese.
I
Cheese
feel like
is a
we're going to
good
break
thing.
into recipes any minute now.
That's right.
Starts with no
Sign-
garlic.
yeah, come on down to Tom's non-garlic food blog.
There you go.
That's it.
All right, if anybody's still listening, we will talk about collectibles.
They're not.
I promise.
Yeah.
Text us if you are a picky eater. Well, I'll send you a hat.
It's-
Anyway, all right. Are we going to do some random? Let's do a couple randoms, and then we're going to hear about the stuff that's just been released, the stuff that's coming out from his. Let's go back. If you don't know Tom, he owns Regal Robot, who makes a bunch of licensed products, and he also restores props for numerous people, and we'll talk about that and
Talk about all that stuff.
all that stuff. So look him up.
He's a hell of a guitar player. I happen to know that because
oh, thank you very much.
you know
Thank you
we
very
hang
much.
out sometimes and play. So
Yeah.
he's a good dude.
Right back at you on that.
Thank you.
Cool. All right, let's just go a quick random since we've spent all this good time talking about food. Barry, what do you got?
All right. So, and this is really more for you, Dave, than anybody. But one of the things we didn't talk about coming out of Star Wars Celebration was that Dave Filoni kind of put out a guide to get people ready for the Ahsoka show who have never watched Rebels. And I know you have never watched an episode of Rebels.
No, I have watched some Rebels. I actually I don't
you
think
did?
Ahsoka
Okay.
was on it.
You
when
didn't
I
make it
watched.
far enough in, though. So
No.
what he's saying is that there's an episode called Jedi Knight. And he says, you got to watch that one. It's not K-N-I-G-H-T. It's Jedi Knight, like N-I-G-H-T. He said, and that's where sad things happen to the character Kanan. That's the one he's recommending you watch. And then he's saying all of season 4. So you can almost kind of skip seasons 1, 2, and 3, watch Jedi Knight, and then watch season 4. But he's also saying if you're ready to watch all of that, you might as well watch the whole thing. But
Of course he is.
that's what
Right.
you need to really and I think we started to talk about this, but I don't think I think we kind of veered off. But I think this show is the first Star Wars thing where you really need to have watched something else.
Really? Interesting.
Because
You don't think the Mandalorian introduction to her character?
I bet you could watch it on that level.
I don't know. There's too many other characters that they're going to pull in from Rebels.
Okay.
I mean, Mandalorian
Yeah,
only really introduced
so
Ahsoka.
maybe
Well,
not
I
so
guess
much
you
her.
did.
Maybe not so much her. It's for all
Yeah.
the other people being brought in. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's to ground you in Ezra
Yeah.
and Sabine and Hera and all those characters.
Yep. That does.
I
make
think
sense.
there's a what was it with Mando season 3? If you didn't watch Book of Boba Fett,
Yeah.
you're like, where'd the kid come
where'd the
from?
kid-
Like he
where'd the
left
kid
him.
come back
Like,
from?
what's
It's
going on here?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's funny, and this wasn't my random, but I guess Tamara Morrison put out a thing where he was like, he hijacked my show for a couple episodes. He put out there was a quote. Did you guys see
So
that?
he finally got around to watching? Is that what it was? Or?
I don't know. Sorry, dude. He had the 2 best episodes of your series. Sorry to tell you. Anyway, Tom, what do you have? Do you have a random for us?
Oh gosh. Well, let's see here. I feel like every day is random at our place.
It could be anything. I mean, it's a news item. It's something you just want to talk about. It could be sandwiches. It's whatever.
I mean, we already did. Yeah, we're probably as random as we could. Actually, Barry and I over last weekend wound up at a pretty random place.
Oh my God, yeah.
It was like a
an
little
antique
60
mall.
booth mini flea market kind of thing, and I don't think you could get more random than that place. Yeah, was it called the Collectibles? I don't even remember
Was that?
the name of it.
It's two stores. I took Dave there. Not maybe.
we
a
went to
couple
those
months
ones.
back.
There's like a toy store, and then there's one.
One was a toy store, and then the other one's more like an antique mall type thing. But
Yeah.
a lot of collectibles. It's like antique but collectibles, and
Right. Yeah. It's definitely collectible focused. There were a few booths that just had like antiques, but a lot of vintage toys, a lot of modern vintage toys, I would call them, like, 90s and early 2000s type stuff. But like every booth had a random smattering of this stuff. It wasn't like there was anybody like, oh, this is the guy you go to for 90s Marvel figures. This is the guy you go for the Toy Biz stuff. This is the guy you go for the Tick figures or whatever. Like it was literally just each booth had a completely random smattering of stuff from KB from 30 years ago. It was just
That's kind of 50% when you say that. That's what I was picturing. So really, it's just like where KB goes to die.
it's kind
Yeah.
of. But 50% of the booths had Playmate Star Trek.
That's what I was going to say. I'm sure
Yeah.
of it.
But they each only had like 2 or 3 figures or
Yeah.
one figure in some case. Like it was a very eclectic mix. It was interesting. I mean, it's funny. I did kick myself. There was one of the booths had a 90s Rocketeer Bendham's figure.
Oh.
And I should have picked that up. It was like $10. I should have that should have come home.
We
with
were
me.
we were scanning the whole package looking for a year to see what year it was made, but there was no markings on it of what year it came out.
It could be like brand new too. That's the
Yeah,
the
it was-
weird
it
thing.
was-
with
there
that.
was
Is
a
Bendham's even a company anymore? Like I don't even know.
No, there was one that was contemporary with the movie. It was there were only like 3 or 4 things that came out with the movie.
That was around. I remember I have one somewhere, Admiral Akbar, which was a Bendham's, but I think it came out around Jedi or something.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
Maybe
just looking.
later.
I actually just looked it up, and yes, it was contemporary. It was 1990. It
Yeah.
came out. So,
Yeah, because
all right, Barry. Next time we go,
All right,
I'll
next
grab
time.
that if it's still there.
The other thing that cracks me up about that place is there's the one obligatory shop that sells swords, knives, and Chinese throwing stars.
Nice.
Right.
need
You have
that.
to. Yeah.
Gotta
And
have that.
probably nunchucks. And
Almost
as
certainly.
we were walking by, they were the people that were like, "Hey guys, have you been here before?" And we're like,
Yeah,
"We're
they
not
were actually
looking
like
for
the
it."
friendly and engaging ones out of everybody. Yeah. That was an experience, that place. I feel like we got out of there because we weren't going to spend all day, but like we could probably do another hour or two in that place and probably still not find much we want to buy, but it was at least interesting
fun to
digging
look at.
through all that
The
stuff.
coolest thing that and if it had been in better shape, I would have bought it. I'd never seen this before. It was was it a Return of the Jedi pop-up book?
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah,
every
that was
page
awesome.
You opened and there was like a pull thing, and you would pull and things would
I
pop
think it was
up, or-
actually first movie. Now that I'm thinking about, wasn't
you're
it
right.
the,
It wasn't
the
Return.
land
It was
speeder going
Star
across
Wars.
the Dune Sea and
That's right, because it had the land
that
speeder and
sounds cool.
everything.
Sandcrawler?
If that had been in a slightly better shape, I would have bought that just because
Yeah.
it was kind of, I'd never even seen that before.
I think I remember seeing that. I think when you said the land, the sand
Yeah, like going across. It was just, yeah. I mean, that is as random as it gets. I don't think you can get a more random than that.
Yeah,
Fair
that's
enough.
true.
Todd, what do you got?
So this is nothing, but it's hopeful nothing. Michael Strulinski came out and said there's some news coming for the reboot of Babylon 5, and there's a new logo that they announced. And he says despite I guess there's big shakeup with CW, he says it's still moving forward and there'll be an announcement very soon.
CW was sold to a bunch of yokels, if you ask me, but that's a whole nother story.
Anyways, but it's I think it's a very underappreciated sci-fi property that I would love to see. I'd love to see the equivalent of Battlestar with this thing, where they they take it and they just take the basic concept and then just reapply it with modern principles and whatnot. You cannot go back to that show, but there was some brilliant stuff in there writing wise. And I'd love to see that done with modern CGI and just what they can do now. So hopefully it's something's going to happen. My other thing, I was just going to say, what is on your list that you no longer want to know anything about? Because mine's filling up quick. I don't want to read anything about Guardians at this point.
Oh, totally.
This is the last conversation tonight we'll have about Indy, I'm sure.
No, Barry ruined Indy for us already.
He totally did. Into the Spider-Verse 2, done. Don't want to read it. There's articles everywhere about that. Don't want to read it.
James Mangold ruined it. I just repeated what he said.
You don't have to read it. I don't want to know about it.
Forward the links. But yeah, there's good stuff coming really soon. So, but I think I'm going in. I think I'm going in undercover on those three after tonight because it's all spoiler territory.
Okay, yeah, Guardians. There's reviews and stuff out. Every time I just see the logo or the name, I'm like, not looking.
No.
I've been going through. So we just started watching season 3 Picard. We're late to the table at that one, and it's just like my entire Facebook feed is filled with spoilers from that show. Like as every episode aired, and I'm just eyes covered, scrolling quickly, trying to avoid because I'm like, I know I'm going to be watching this in a couple of weeks. My wife and I like to wait until at least the whole thing's out, so we don't have to wait. So we literally just started, and we'll probably watch the whole show over the weekend. But it's just kind of
like hard, Tom. I got to tell you, I would see. this show came out on Thursday, and Thursday afternoon, I would see pictures from the article as the header for the header.
Oh yeah.
So you didn't even have to read the article. You're like, oh,
exactly.
That's
and honestly, it was the same way with the last season of Mando. I'm even as a licensee, we don't know much about the show until it airs. So it'll be, the show comes out. What is it? Midnight. Yeah. So the first thing Wednesday morning. I don't watch it until Wednesday night. I go to get up. I go to work, come home from work, eat, and then watch. And every episode, it was just like I get into work and I look at Rob. We sit down before we even start anything. It's like, "Did you get spoiled?" Yep, me too. Like, what the fuck? Pardon my language.
It's okay. We even have friends who text us.
Not everybody has a job where they can watch it at 8:00 in the morning. Guys, stop spoiling it. Yeah.
Bad news.
Yeah, and you would think my boss would let me watch it at work, but he's a jerk.
He's a jerk.
We've established that.
Yes, yeah. And a picky eater. I mean,
that's a quality trait.
Dave, I would like to
discriminating
to do a slight regular Joe's airing of grievances real quick, if that's okay.
Is it about you spoiling Indy for us?
No, it's not.
Is Tom selling out really quickly on something?
And no. And this will be a good lead into our sponsor, who is the opposite of this. So,
I didn't go with. Do you want to go after my random?
Oh, I thought you went already.
I didn't. No,
okay,
I sort of did.
No,
mine's
you
not
go.
Sort of slid one in there. Go.
You go, and then I'll air my grievance.
The only reason I bring it up is because we did not wish each other a happy Aliens Day as they try to capitalize on 426, which was this past week. So happy Aliens Day, everybody. Belated.
Yes. Yep.
But Sigourney
And also
Weaver
with you.
Yeah.
was interviewed and said that she, which makes all the sense in the world, she does not see a Aliens 5 ever happening at this point. And I know a couple years ago we were all excited about, I guess it was the Neil Blomkamp or whatever his name is.
Oh yeah,
That movie would have been story. And but I mean, yeah, she's I don't she's got to be what, late 60s at this point. It's just not going to happen.
Well, but they're making an Alien movie right now, but it's a prequel to all of that, or it's a side story.
Prequel to the prequels that no one wants to see.
It's not a continuation of Prometheus. It's its own movie. I guess he's given up on that stuff. So
I don't know.
It's getting hard to follow.
It is getting hard to follow.
And I also don't really believe anything they say anymore. I really don't. I mean, we there's been so much misdirection on these things that like.
But what's crazy
surprise,
is that
it is a sequel. It's good.
If you
it's
had
not
her on
connected
board to make that movie, how do you not make that movie?
Not do that? Yep.
Right.
Yeah. And it's
I
when
would
you're
have
really
thought the hard part
it.
would have been convincing her to do it, but she was like ready to do it. So
here's a film franchise with what
2 films,
7 movies or something, and 2 were good.
Yeah.
It's kind of a shame, and it's so beloved.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what's one of your favorite franchises? Aliens. But there's only 2 good movies. It's just.
I would.
It's not just 2 are good; it's 2 are really freaking great.
I would say 2 great movies and a couple that are not even watchable.
Yeah, that's
a couple that are mediocre and a couple that aren't watchable.
Right, and I know you hate when I say this. The director's cut of Alien 3 made it somewhat watchable. Better than the theatrical version. I'm not saying it made it great. It made it better.
The home video industry just called and said, thank God for Barry. He loves the director's cuts because you're the only one. But anyway, you have a grievance, I believe.
I got a lot of problems with you people. Now you're going to hear about it.
Regular Joe's, the airing of grievances.
The airing of grievances.
This is a company I've bought stuff from before and have always had a good experience with. But I showed you this figure a couple weeks ago. I got this at Target, right? But it had a little bit of a damage to it. This is the retro Indiana Jones figure.
I almost bought that because it was back in stock, and I'm like, what am I going to do with it? But anyway.
I decided I wanted one that was in really pristine shape. So I went to Big Bad Toy Store because they offer, you can pay extra, and they will send you collector's grade version of the figure. So I did that. I paid extra, and I don't know if you'll be able to see this. The card's perfect, but the figure is leaning forward in the bubble in a way that like I couldn't display it because he's like leaning forward. So I'm like, well, I paid for collector's grade. I'm going to reach out to them and send them pictures, and they're going to send me a replacement because I paid extra for collector's grade. And the response that I got was collector's grade is only about the packaging, not the item inside the bubble. So if it was missing a head, they wouldn't have replaced it. Like, it doesn't matter what's wrong with the figure. It's only the card. So, yeah, the card's perfect, but I still can't display it. So it was a waste of even more money than if I had just kept...
Let's see them both up close.
It's hard to see, but...
No, I turn facing towards us. One is that he's definitely looking down a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually... You know how there's like a clamshell inside the bubble? He's not seated into it. So he's like leaning all the way forward. I mean, look, it was still under $25 shipped, but
you should poke a little needle in and push him back.
I know. I was just like, I couldn't believe their response that collector's grade is only like, it's only about the card, not about the actual item inside the bubble.
But I mean, you think about it, they would have to like have somebody expertly reviewing the paint ops on every action figure.
Well, if they're offering that service,
they take the figure, they seal it in plastic, and then they put it in a special box and then ship it inside another box.
It is the packaging.
Anybody could have seen that the figure wasn't seated right. Anyway.
You know what? You know what? Online toy store doesn't suck.
That's right.
Collectibles.
Fanboy Collectibles would never have done this to me.
No, I don't think they would. So check those guys out. Speaking of Ahsoka, Hot Toys Ahsoka is in stock. I don't know. Did any of you guys order that?
Todd did.
I think Todd did.
I'm
right.
pretty
It's
sure
in stock.
Todd did.
I have not got my. I have not got. I haven't got my notice yet. So
Be prepared. Okay.
I'm wondering if
there's a
there's
Dirty
two versions.
Harry.
I wonder if there's two versions of it.
That could
Dirty
be.
Harry figure in stock. Harry Kim from Exo-6 that we mentioned.
Yep.
You know, Troy doesn't always get all the Exo-6s, but he did get Harry Kim, so check that out. But there's Pops and Sideshow and Hot Toys and Kotobukiya and Hasbro and everything you need. Check those guys out, fanboycollectibles.com. Check them out at their store in Newtown, Connecticut. Tell them the Regular Joe sent you. Okay. Obviously, that's our sponsor, Tom. I don't know if you know.
Clearly.
I mean,
Clearly.
Regal Robot could be a sponsor. We can talk about that.
And off the show, we'll give you the same rates that those guys give us.
Yeah, that's right.
But we're going to give you a big old commercial for free tonight. So
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, there's something about cows and milk, and you know.
when we invite you on as a guest, it's kind of implied.
That's right. Sure. Oh, as soon as my mouth opens, it's a commercial. You know.
There you go.
Well,
Well, speaking of that, no. Anyway, you know, it's
Yes.
funny.
By the way, a Big Bad Toy Store, a fine retailer that does carry Regal Robot products. So.
and
why didn't you
I'm
say that to us?
I'm a customer. Like, I was just really disappointed with this interaction with them.
No, that's well, and of course we prefer that people just come right to us. So go to
Yes.
regalrobot.com when you're making your purchases. You don't have to go to a retailer, but for people who have credit with them or something, let's say you got a figure that wasn't quality and you had to return it, and they gave you a store credit, you could use it to buy Regal Robot product.
Yeah.
I'll take care of this. The views of the Regular Joe's podcast are not endorsed by Tom Spina, Tom Spina Designs, or Regal Robot.
That's right.
Yeah. All rights
Or
Oh,
reserved.
any Disney licensee or affiliate, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's only in the continental
forthwith.
United States.
Yes.
Okay. So, as we sit here, we're recording this on February 28th, not February, April 28th.
we're recording it in the past.
We're recording
right.
in the past. You had a whole line of indie stuff that just
Yeah.
came out on Monday, and let's talk about that. I mean, we put it up on our social medias.
Thank you for that.
Something,
And
very
Indy's a
exciting.
new license for you guys. This is your first drop of Indy.
Yeah, new. I mean, it is an absolute, favorite property for us. I mean, I don't like, IP and all of that stuff is kind of but franchise always sounds weird too. Like, I don't even, it's just, for us, it's Star Wars and Indy. Like, that's just, those are the top two, and it's neck and neck. I don't even know, especially when you're talking, first couple of films for certainly trilogies, like the original trilogy and the first three Indy movies, like those are the two holy trilogies, right? There's,
Tom, there were only 3 indie films.
right. No, yeah, I guess
yeah,
if there was a fourth one,
okay.
if it was good, we'd have heard about
We'd
it.
acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when we did the Regular Joe's top 100, I think it was Star Wars and Indiana Jones was 1 and 2, right? I don't remember.
I mean, that's how I rate them.
Yeah.
And I think when we heard that Disney was going to start doing licensing again for Indy, which they hadn't been doing, that was immediately like, yes, we'd like to do this. How do we do this? And luckily we had carved ourselves a nice niche with them with what we do with Star Wars. And we work with, it sounds cliche, but we work with really great people at Lucasfilm when we're developing this stuff. And our partners at Disney are great as well on like the contract side and stuff. So it was a slow process to incorporate that into our license, but it wasn't anything painful, which was nice. And so we had worked on this stuff on and off for about a year between pitches and then actual product development. And then on the 25th of April, we finally got to put it out there. And that was really, it was a very gratifying day. We've had a lot of product launches over the last 5 or 6 years with Regal, and usually you're launching 3 or 4 products at the most. Our biggest launches are like if we're doing Star Wars stuff, we'll do 3 or 4 products. This was 6, including a high-end collectible that was very limited and also wound up being very sought after. And it made for a really exciting and interesting day at the shop. It made for some very exhausted people in the office at the end of the day, because we are still, and you guys have been to the studio, it is still a very small studio. It is very, sort of mom and pop. There are, at any given time, it's really just 2 or 3 people that are handling all of the emails and orders coming in and putting them into our system and answering people back and answering questions and all of that stuff. And then, a couple extra hands maybe packing up orders and things like that. But so even just in terms of just fielding orders that day was crazy. Every time we looked at the inbox, it was like another 100 emails, and then it was like, oh gosh, what are we doing? But it was really cool. We had no idea what Indy was going to do, because there's not a real huge track record of Indiana Jones as a licensed thing.
Yeah.
And certainly not the way we do it. There's action figure history. There's some things like, Christmas ornament type stuff, but the kind of high-end sculpted magnets we're doing and the wall decor pieces we're doing that are really, high-end, and then things like even the director chair and stuff, like people aren't, like, that's not stuff that's been out there before. So we came into it hopeful, but frankly blind.
But when you think back even to when those movies were new and when they first came out, there were toys for the first movie, but then there was a line of toys for the first movie. There were 3 action figures for the second movie, and nothing after that until Hasbro did it like a retro thing like 10 years ago. But even in when you look at the Star Wars toy line from the 70s and 80s and Indy, like, you can't even compare it. There were like 10 figures in the Indy line and 100 figures.
It's interesting that it did really not appeal to kids at the time, or did it? I mean, I would imagine that if that line had sold great, we'd probably have seen a lot more. But
certainly,
I guess it was more of an adult movie, which
I think
it's hard to believe.
I think it was less kid appeal, and I think they pitched a little bit more towards kids in the second film by getting younger protagonists in
by
there.
Having kids put in slavery and
exactly, and
those kids love that kind of stuff.
And that just goes to that teeter-totter that Temple of Doom really is, in terms of tonal. It's a tonal teeter-totter.
Yes.
It's like, yes, you're bringing that, like, it's aimed for kids element into it, but then you're bringing all these creepy and adult themes and scary and, it's challenging stuff.
Yeah, it's like cringy Goonies.
It's just like, it's like, we want kids to like this, but this isn't a kid's movie, So it's just, of course, those toys aren't going to work out great.
I would think if you put, like, maybe an 8 or 9 year old kid, and 8 or 9 year old kids today are very different than when we were 8 or 9. But I would think they'd be scared of that one the most.
Yeah, certainly.
It's funny you think that, though. Like Evan, who was too young to see, my son, who was too young to see Jurassic Park when it came out, had every Jurassic Park toy there was. Okay. And so that was kind of the opposite case, where they were smart enough to sell that from the, they could sell those toys from commercials for kids who were never going to see that movie.
Right.
Oh, but think about it. They had Terminator 2 action figures. For kids.
Yeah.
And they had Alien action figures for kids that didn't really.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's talk about.
But it's also kids in the 90s. I think it's not to drag this out, but like the toys they were putting out in the late 80s are very different than the toys they put out in the early 80s. So stuff in the early 80s was for kids. Like young kids. And by the time you get later, it's almost like they're for the cool kids, you're doing Terminator figures, you're doing Alien figures.
Yeah.
Those are pretty hip toys, and comparatively anyway.
I think you also had a 15-year period where everybody was trying to find the next Star Wars action figure.
Yes.
And everybody was convinced that, like, oh, Terminator, it's going to go big, and the kids are going to love this and whatever. And no one ever quite caught lightning in the bottle the same way.
Yeah, and Indy was also swallowed up in. It wasn't, it was in the middle of the Star Wars trilogy. It just, it wasn't. And I think that Star Wars toys were only getting, more, more activity in 1981 or whatever.
Yeah. So I just want to bring, because we talked a lot about this high-end collectible, but we never said what it was. So let's just talk about that for a second. So, what's interesting is that I think when you think about Indy props, the famous props from Indiana Jones, everybody goes to the Idol, everybody goes to the Grail Diary, maybe, or the Grail. But so you made, and you're going to pronounce it better than me. It's the Urn of Nurahachi. Is that right?
Nurhachi. That's right.
Which is in the beginning of Temple of Doom.
Lao Che's great ancestor, the emperor of the Manchu dynasty.
Yes, but it's one of those things where if you know it, you know it, but it's not necessarily as iconic as some of those other things, but yet you put this thing out as your first prop replica, and it's sold out in how many minutes?
Like 45 minutes, yeah.
Nice.
And that's the thing. I honestly thought this was going to be a little obscure for people.
Same.
I knew it. I jumped on it.
You jumped on. You knew it.
Smart. And thank you.
You know why? Because, again, none of this stuff is really commercially available. I mean, some is starting to be, but in the sort of replica prop form and whatever else there is, there are, idols and cups and the great, headpiece of Staff of Ra and blah, blah, blah. I know of one guy who's ever made the urn, and it's probably the least made thing out there.
And none of them have the provenance and the sort of the legacy that yours has, right? So,
well, yeah, and I guess that's where it comes down to, and this was again Indy as kind of the unknown for us. We know we love it. We know what we love about it, and to me it's very similar to Star Wars. I love the making of those movies as much as I love the movies themselves. I love the props in them. I love the artifacts. I love the what's really nice about the Indy artifacts is there's stuff you can just put on regular shelves in the middle of your house among other artifacts and things like that, and it doesn't look like you're a prop collecting nerd. The thing with Nurhachi though was it is obscure, certainly more obscure than the idol, the Sankara stones, the cup, etc. It is, for us, it was intentional, to pick something a little more obscure to start with, because like you said, there's tons of fans out there making a lot of stuff. Shop Disney had a round of stuff that came out last year that was very, very reasonably priced. And, all our stuff is made by hand in the USA, most of it right in our shop in New York. And, the cost reflects that. The license reflects that. Disney obviously doesn't have to pay themselves when they're doing their stuff. So it was important to us, like, we have to pick something unique. We have to pick something we have unique access to. And in this case, we got to handle the original prop, photograph it, laser 3D scan it, and color match it and all of that stuff, so that we are now giving somebody something that has a layer of authenticity and a level of lineage, big word this week, that other versions of this won't have. It's kind of I think it's kind of what I've always tried to do in business. Even when you go into the other business, Tom Spina Designs, where we're talking about a business that could have started up and just been another guy making rubber monster masks, which at the time there's, tons of guys on the old HMA forums, on the RPF, et cetera, out there just making replica monster masks. And it's not until I hit on the restoration aspect of what I was doing on the side that was unique that made me say that's something I can build around. And so, that's the way we're approaching these license pieces when we're doing our Star Wars stuff. We're not doing just character statues or quarter scales or whatever. We're doing, high resolution scanned archive collection stuff where we're going into the archives and we're doing, the concept maquettes, and we're doing props, and we're doing things that are not often done, and certainly never done to the level that we're able to do them, I think, if I could be a modest for a minute
for
or
sure.
two. And even our decor stuff, though, it's like at one point, if you told me 5 years ago that, our decor section was going to have 30 magnets in it at all times, I'd be like, magnets? What are you talking about? But, we stumbled on it because we thought it would be neat to see Jabba's Dais gargoyles as a magnet at like Celebration as a takeaway. Yeah, there it is, Barry. We just did that because it was like we needed something for Celebration, and I wanted something small, and it was like, well, what's within our license that we're not doing? And it hit, and people loved it, and so it just expanded and grew there. We've got some in the works now that are actually like, I'm genuinely excited about some of the magnets we're working on, and it's just like these are kind of ridiculous little decor pieces, but they are detailed, and they're often from like. Sometimes we're even using the scans that we're working with. Our Golden Idol magnet for Indy is actually from a scan of the hero idol from Raiders.
That's awesome.
Even just the magnet version of it, because why wouldn't we tie that in?
What I think is really interesting, though, too, is like you do have, because of the license you have, and actually probably because of the relationships you've built up with Lucasfilm over the years, you have access to the actual items. There are other licensees and companies that have released items that also had access to the original items, but the end result wasn't nearly as authentic or as close to what you guys are doing. And a lot of that comes from, just because you can scan something doesn't mean that you know how to then take that and paint it properly and what to do with it to make it as close to the original as possible. So there's, it's the access and it's the lineage, but it's also the ability to know how to turn that into something that looks identical to the original thing, and not everybody can do that.
It's tough, and there's an authenticity of style, even more so than exactness of detail, that I think is the key. Like even with our maquette line, those are all hand painted, and they're all hand painted with the same type of washes and random dry brushes and speckling and things like that are on the originals. Does that mean that every single speckle is going to be in the same place? No, but they're going to be painted the same way, by hand the same way, with the same feel. And to me, feel outweighs exactness when it comes to a prop replica. And it's still, obviously, detail is key and important, and getting everything as close as you can is important. But if you paint something, dot for dot, but you're painting tight, it's going to look fake and it's going to look bad. And if you paint something loose, with the same style and the same layering, it's going to feel way more authentic, even if it's not 1,000,000% the same. And that often factors in as well. And we're lucky that it's a small shop. There's only a few hands on these things. The Baby Yodas that we've been doing, the Grogu concept maquette replica, that was, we luckily, from knowing Tony McVeigh, who sculpted it for the movie, and for the show rather, and Christian Altman, who did the concept art, we were able to get access to Tony's original molds. We were able to get both Tony and Christian to sign the plaques for him. And then, all the duplicates we're making, we're matching Tony's original paint. But it's only like 2 or 3 people in the shop that are painting those. So they're going to be pretty consistent through the line just because of that.
But I even think about the Rancor statue that you guys did. If you had just scanned the Rancor puppet that exists right now and not done all the work that because, we've talked about, I know how much additional work you had to do to repose the scan to actually make it look right, because the puppet has degraded over,
and he's in a weird pose.
So anybody that had access could have scanned that, but the product wouldn't have been what you guys turned it into, because you knew how to make it, you knew what it needed to look like to be right.
Well, and there's also, because of all the work we do with props, we can look at stuff in the archives and know, like how you have to interpret these things. Because even Nurhachi's a good example. the actual urn, the resin on it has yellowed over time. So we actually had to, if we were color matching the real one, everybody would have looked at the movie and said, oh, it's too yellow, it's too dark. So we had to tone our color on that base resin. It's a translucent resin. It's actually, we skewed it closer to the film coloring than it is now, because there's age there, and you have to think about that. There's some other props. There's one in particular that Christian at the shop, our 3D main 3D guy, is working on, that's going to be a future Indy wall decor piece, that is physically broken in pieces at the archives, and it's like we're digitally repairing it, but it's like you have to know, well, is that a post-production break? Is that something from the show? Is that an important thing? And that happens all the time with this stuff. You've got to kind of become a forensic prop scientist from time to time. A prop archaeologist,
which you do in your other in
yes,
prop
in my
restoration all the time.
In my day job, it's exactly it.
Yeah.
But Nurhachi really, it definitely caught me by surprise. Rob and I at the shop, we're the ones who set the lines together, and we have. It is funny to me. Not funny. It's very nice. We get people who sometimes will write us and be like, oh, you guys should do this. And they'll throw ideas at us. And the main thing that Rob and I constantly say to each other is like, we have no shortage of ideas. Like, you leave us alone in that office together, and at the end of every day, we've got 20 new ideas to do on top of the 400 things that we already want to do. And it's just like, we have to stop. But we were 100% on board with Nurhachi being the first one, and we thought that the obscurity of it would probably help it to last a little while on the site. And so in my mind, he always is more optimistic on the sales than I am. I think he thought it would be about a day. I thought it would last a week. And to me, a week is great. Like, if we can get a product that goes up and lasts about a week, I feel like that gives everybody a chance who needed to, who didn't know about it or whatever. People always, it's like, oh, congratulations, you sold out in 45 minutes. And I'm like, that makes me uncomfortable.
The majority of the people that will hear about this will not be able to get it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So by the time they know it exists, it's out of reach.
Is that the fastest anything ever sold out for you guys, Tom?
No. We were trying to after this happened, somebody at the shop asked that. And so Christine and I started racking our brains, and we were like, okay, so we remembered, it was like Salacious Crumb took, we were like, was it a day or was it 2 days? There was 150 of those, and they were like $4,000 each. That's a much bigger piece, but for 2 days, that was pretty good. But the one that really, the fastest one so far, okay, so there's two, but one of them kind of doesn't count. The first one was, we did the CZ3 bust. We did 50 of the regular edition, and we did only, I think, 15 of a very special signature edition with extra paint on it. That was dumb. We should have done more. But he wasn't a super fast seller on the regular edition, and it was the first bust we were doing. People didn't find us, but the signature edition sold out in like 7 minutes, and we were like, oh, that wasn't enough, But that was obviously not enough. The hollow chess 77 piece, it was the 10-piece set. We only did 77 of them, 3 signatures. It was Dennis Murin, Phil Tippett, John Berg. That sold out in about 25 minutes.
Wow.
And that was, granted, fewer pieces, but it was a $4,700 or $4,500. Yeah. It was, that shocked the heck out of me. I was like, I knew that set was great. It's still probably my favorite thing we've done. I've got a set in my office. I've got all the Paint Masters on my shelf. And I mean, I painted those myself by hand. That was an absolute passion project. But the fact that, that sold that fast just absolutely floored me. I did not expect that. I thought that would last a month. Yeah. I was just like, at the price there, like, well, there's no way,
That's good.
I think
that's
you're
good
getting
marketing
into,
though, because you
Go ahead.
reached your buyers. You know what I'm saying? The people that wanted
Yeah.
that. That's a very, I would say
That's a niche. That's
it's
not
it's
a
niche,
broad piece.
and you managed to get through the word out to those people, so
Yeah.
they were in the starting gate. And
Yeah, that's true.
That's
Thank
an
you.
amazing accomplishment given how niche that is.
I
Yeah.
also think you're at the point where it's not like, oh, I heard about there's a Nurhachi thing. I love Nurhachi. I think it's at the point where Regal Robot's doing it. It's going to be great. I'm in. So it's not, you've sort
Thank
of
you.
bypassed that. If it just came out from like XYZ company and
Right.
even was the same, you've built up that lineage, which is
And
which
I
is
don't
awesome.
think I think it's the collectors that are buying it. I don't think that you're seeing people going, oh, I know this is going to be valuable. Let me buy it and flip it. I
Right.
think it's really the people that want this stuff are the ones.
I'm
that are getting
flipping
it.
mine now that I know it's after. So
He's on eBay while we're doing. You know what's interesting? I've seen this in the past. Collectors mimic each other, right? Like,
oh my God, we make each other buy things
all the time.
all the time.
Yeah,
And
it's like a reverse support group. We always say that.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think there's definitely some aspect of that starts to happen. And there's also, I believe, because of the type of stuff that we're picking, there's almost an education that has to happen with some of the stuff, especially as we get into the concept maquettes and the pre-production things that we're replicating. We don't just have to say, hey, we're making this and make sure people hear about it. We have to say, hey, we're making this. This is why we made it. This is why we think it's cool. And I've found, in particular with the maquette line, where, we've had some great sellouts there too. So the Rees sold out in like 7 hours. We upped our edition size after that, and the next one was Yak Face with Judy Elkin's signature. She's the one who sculpted them. First time she's ever done anything on a product, and that sold out within like 12 hours. And that was with an increase in volume on that. So we are, I think, people are getting it now. It's like, I feel like now that we've got more of those people out, more of those products out there, more people are going like, oh, this line is cool. Like, okay, I see what they're seeing. Like, I know why Tom's so into this stuff and so excited about it all the time. And, and for any of those people who are listening, if you could, if you ever see our Facebook Live videos, we have blockers that go up on the shelves behind me. What's under there are like the next 6 years worth of prototypes for the maquette line, because we're just going nuts with making.
Oh, that's cool.
Going through all of our scans and stuff. And we've gotten to a point now where we've digitally preserved every one of the maquettes from Return of the Jedi. And now a bunch of them, and some from Empire, and now a bunch of them even from the prequels and things like that. And it's incredible just to think about it from that point of view, because I feel like it really is an aspect of preserving this stuff. But now to have that to draw from as we're developing this line and going further with it, before we drift back to Indy, while we're on the maquettes, so May 25th is the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. It was the 40th anniversary of one of the most disappointing days in my young life.
Really? You don't love Jedi?
No, I absolutely love Jedi. But I didn't see Return of the Jedi on May 25th, 1983. Oh. I saw it several days later. Because my parents took me out of school a little early. No, I'm sorry, they didn't take me out of school early. But at around 3 o'clock, got out of school, got in the car, drove right to the Mid-Island Plaza to see it at the Plaza Twin, and in Dolby 70 millimeter. I remember it saying it on the sign. And there was a line at the front of the theater. And so they said, all right, well, let's drive and let's just take a look at the line. And the line goes around the back, goes around the side of the theater. There's an alleyway, goes down the alleyway, goes down the other side of the alleyway, comes back up.
So pretty much New York Comic Con.
Yeah, goes around Corvettes, if anybody remembers the store. the store where my mother wouldn't buy me Micronauts. I'm starting to see. Okay, I'm figuring stuff out here. I'm working through things.
Some childhood trauma here.
Yeah.
So you avoid all of Hicksville now because it's just
That's
all
right.
trauma?
Yeah, no, it's just too painful. And then around the back of the mall, and at that point where we should have parked and gotten on the line, we kept driving. And my dad was just like, "There's no way we're waiting this long for a movie." And that, I mean, the pain to this day, I can feel it. The disappointment, and then going to school the next day and hearing from my friends who got to see it, and just, no, why?
Yeah, well, and you probably remember. Do you remember the movie theater? And this is just for Long Islanders only.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but the movie theater that was on Sunrise Highway, where that now it's an Infinity dealership in Massapequa.
I never went there because I was in that Hicksville area, so that was always like that.
But
that
I don't
crux for
remember
me,
the
but I
name
know
of
what you're
that
talking
theater,
about.
but that's where I cut out of school that day, and I went to that theater and did see it.
Nice. I remember we ducked out of school early to go to Ghostbusters 2.
And that was a disappointing day too.
That was a disappointment for a different reason because we did see the movie. Yeah.
Well, if you didn't have that Star Wars based pain, you may not be the person you are today.
You're just trying to. You've got that hole inside you. You're trying to fill.
That's right. I'm trying to fill with all of them.
From that.
You would, you'd be an accountant now, and just
That's right.
Just be like,
are you kidding? I'm a Disney licensee. I'm basically an accountant.
yeah.
Wow.
You were about to announce a new product.
Oh yes.
I got sidetracked.
At least tease a new product.
What was that Todd was saying about me being good at marketing?
Yeah.
So yes, 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. We are. I won't say too much more. I don't know when exactly Rob is prepared because he does a lot of our social. I don't know when our exact schedule is for releasing the info about this, but I will say May 25th we will have a release. It will be a single piece, a collectible, around $400 range. It will be limited. However, what we're doing to try and give folks a chance here is a 40-hour release for the 40th. So basically, the piece will go up. We will leave it on for 40 hours, and then we will shut it down. And if you get in that 40 hours, you get one.
So you're not predetermining.
What if there's a million of them?
You're not predetermining your
We're not
number. You're letting the orders determine that's.
Well,
it's an interesting way to go.
It's a collectible, or is it in the maquette line, or it's more in the?
It is in the collectible line, and obviously a Star Wars piece, Return of the Jedi piece. It fits right in with the other stuff we're doing. It's really cool. It's signature edition. It's got a special plaque for the 40th anniversary.
Nice.
And it is going to be we have an idea of how many we'll probably sell. But we also, it's something that we know, and this was actually even a factor with Nurhachi. Nurhachi is a challenging piece to produce. This is one that is eminently producible, and we know, if we do get a lot of orders, I don't think we're getting 1 million, Dave, but thank you. Let's say though, instead of the typical 100 or 125 pieces or 150 pieces, we get 200 or 250. I don't know that it goes much beyond that, but even if we do, that's all doable. It's all in-house for us. We're not depending on anyone for this thing. So, it's just that just, maybe it takes us a little longer to make them. But yeah, it's probably as much as I should say about it, but it'll be something that we'll be sharing more on. We now have a Facebook group, not just the Facebook page. So even if you follow our Facebook page, you're missing out now, apparently. But there is a Facebook group. Just look up Regal Robot Collector Showcase. It'll come up. We actually just hit 1,000 members. We're going to do a contest this week because of that with a really cool prize. And yeah, we'll be teasing stuff out. What we tend to do is, we do the more official teases on the page, but we do a lot more loose behind the scenes iPhone snaps of things from the studio and stuff like that in the group. So if you like to see what's going on behind the curtain a little bit, that's a great place to be.
Cool. And we'll have it on our social media when we're allowed to say anything.
And I'll just give a plug for that group because I've been in it since you started it, and it's fun because not only are you posting stuff in there, but people are posting pictures of their collections, and
Yeah.
a lot of good conversation going on there. So,
Like, yeah, a lot of people doing reviews. Like, there was a woman who picked up the life-size Tauntaun bust for us and almost gave like a play-by-play of like, she got this giant box. She opened the box. She unwrapped things. She hung it on the wall, and we got to see like.
Yeah, she posted the picture of the giant box and it's like, I'm not taking any more pictures or posting anything for a day. Just like, it's a giant box. Tomorrow I'll tell you what's in it. And it was fun.
Yeah, oh gosh, she was so happy with that too. It's so great to see. Like, it's really cool that folks want things you make, right? Like, I mean, when you're producing stuff, it's like you guys put on the podcast. If people want to listen to it, that's great. I assume people listen to this, but
a few,
just
our friends.
Yeah, you make music and someone wants to hear it. If you make statues and someone wants to put them on their shelves with their other licensed pieces that you've maybe collected, or that I see our stuff next to things from Sideshow or next to things from Hot Toys. Like, that to me is a huge compliment. I'm like, that's amazing stuff. And I'm in there, or people put it with their MR stuff or their EFX or whatever. It's like there's an element of like, oh shoot, we made it, that comes from that. But then even more so just seeing the people who, it goes back to just that maquette line, that they're getting it thing. Like when Brandon from Talking Bay 94 posted his maquette collection today. I think he just got the Tauntaun bust set. And it was just so cool to see. It's like, he's the Tauntaun bust, and he's got the Max Rebo, and he's got the Jabba the Hutt, and he's got the Weequay. And it's like, it's so much more than it feels like when you're doing them one at a time. To see them together like that, and like to know that feeling is there for these people. Like, that's freaking cool.
We talk about this all the time, and you and I have had this conversation about, like, no matter who you are, however much money you have or whatever, everybody has a limited amount of space. Some people have more space or less, but to know that people are dedicating a portion of that space to your stuff's got to be like rewarding to see it.
Totally. Especially when you get into like those big Chewy busts or the Tauntauns. It's like, that's a big commitment right there, know?
Yeah, one of our friends who, a longtime listener, has your Emperor chair and your Cantina chairs.
Oh,
and
nice.
This guy, Eben, he's got a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Collector.
Yeah.
Eben the Collector. He does a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he's got a great collection, and I love his photos are always great. We share some of his stuff on our social, and he's active in that group too. It's always cool to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the sort of behind the scenes. So I just want to backtrack to the indie stuff a little bit. So did you come up with a list of things like, these are things we'd like to make? And Nurhachi was at the top of the list, knowing, or before you make that list, do you get like the list from the archives of like what's in there, or do
you might hypothetically call this your Holy Grail list?
Hypothetically.
If you were making, I just needed
first,
a name for that list.
I get out my father's diary.
Yeah, that's
then,
right. Exactly. You just put it in a diary. Yeah.
So yeah, it starts, especially when you're talking about a totally new property like this for us, right? Like, it starts with a brainstorm and it starts with a list. And that list, the way I do it is two categories. There's one category where I list the type of items we're permitted to do within the license. And then below each one of those, we throw down specific ideas for each of those. Then I do another list of specific inspiration from the movies, whether that's a location, a prop, a set dressing piece, a costume, a character, etc. And that's those are huge lists. And a lot of times you just watch the movie in the background, or you're like, oh, I didn't even think of that. Like, that goes on, one category or the other. Or like, oh, that'd be great with a pencil in it, and that's a desk thing. And then that's on that list. So yeah, very quickly between Rob and myself, and a little bit Rich Riley, we had a huge list of possible products to make already, ready to go, like this, and this. Then we have this huge list of inspiration that then you cross-reference your inspiration with your product list, and you go like, all right, well, what else could we do that would be a magnet? And you go through your inspiration, like there's one. What's a desk accessory? That'd be cool. Ooh, if we put these two together, that's a cool set. Put that in the magnets, When it came to the props, so I'm like, the luckiest nerd on earth that I've gotten to know the folks at the Lucasfilm Archives over the years, and we've done work for them doing conservation as well. And, all of this predates even the license work by many, many years. So I already had a very good understanding of what they had.
Oh, okay.
Indy and Star Wars wise. And then there's also, the From Star Wars to Indiana Jones, the Best of Lucasfilm Archives book has a very nice, very extensive coverage of their Indiana Jones collection. The Star Wars coverage in that is good, but it's very cursory, it's very on the surface. Their Indy collection isn't as big. So, what's in that book is a pretty good pass of it. It's just things like, the Grail Cup you would look at. They've got one Grail Cup in the book. And I don't think that one's actually the hero, but then you go and there's a whole bunch of them. And now you've got to not only, go like, oh, okay, well, we want to do something with a piece. You have to go like, oh, well, is this the piece that we want out of all of these pieces? Because maybe they're different in different ways. Sometimes it's paint, sometimes it's sculpt, sometimes it's casting, and it's, minor differences. Sometimes it's major differences. So very often, the perfect example of this was the Tusken Raider that we have the life-size bust. We went, examined 2 Tusken Raiders there, and they pulled one for us to scan. And, you do what they, it's kind of like eating at Todd's house. You take what's given to you,
exactly.
And you try it. So we scan that one. We get back to the studio because, you're so busy when you're there. When we're there, we try to be economical about this stuff. We don't want to overload ourselves with development costs. So when we go, these are trips we do very much on the cheap. We're flying commercial. We are getting ourselves to the ranch. We're staying there a few days at a time, and we pack these days with work. And we get done. We eat a little something in the room. We process scans all night, and we sleep. And we wake up the next morning. We're right back to
stay at the ranch.
What's that?
You stay at the ranch.
Yeah, there's like an inn there. If you have business there, you can stay at the ranch. I highly recommend it.
Listeners would love to hear that. And
it's something, usually when you're there, you run into people that are staying for work at Sky Sound. Sometimes it's directors that are mixed in a movie. Sometimes it's the musicians. A lot of times, like, you'll get up and you'll go down for breakfast, and there's just, a whole bunch of people shuffling through with like orchestra instruments under their arms and stuff. It's amazing. Amazing. This is not a humble brag. This is not a brag. This is just a deep, deep appreciation for what George built there.
It's very cool. You could
special.
say, hey, we know we all listen to the Stuff Dreams Are Made of podcast, and suck it, Ryan. You still haven't gotten
That's right. Yes.
archives as Dave.
I can't think of something more pathetic than Ryan from the What Dreams Are. No.
Anyway.
Me and Dave really, you have to give it to him. So, but yes, we do these short trips, and when we're there, we pack them in. So we get home from that trip with the Tusken Raider scan, and it's months later that the Tusken Raider's making it into the mix, and we're like, oh yeah, let's put that on the front burner. Let's pull up the scan. We start looking, and we start comparing to the old photos, and we realize that, of the 4 masks that were made for the film, they have 2 of them. That the one we scanned is great, and it was the one in better condition, which is why they pulled it for us. But it's just one of the 3 that are behind the rock in that like rock shot. Whereas the other one they have is the one in all of the beautiful promo pictures, the white background shots, not the ones in the desert, but the white background. And it's a photo match for that 100% every which way. And it's just like, well, we got to go back to the ranch now because we need to scan that other one.
Oh, really?
And, we did that. It's like, were we going to put out the other one? No, that's the better one. So, stuff like that happens. We actually just had that happen with an Indy piece as well. But we're very, we're cautious about this stuff, and we're committed to that level on this stuff. I
That
have
goes
no
back to
idea
what I
what
was
any
saying
of the
before,
question was
right?
that
Like-
pushed us in this direction.
I asked you what was the process of like
Oh,
going
there
and
you go.
picking and
Right. But
do
that
you
goes
know
back
it's
to what we
in
were
the
saying
archives?
before, because like other licensees that might not have that level of knowledge or that level of dedication to it would have been perfectly fine with the one that they scanned or the
Right.
one that they were
And it's a
presented
beautiful
with.
mask. I would, it's like if someone was like, "Hey, Tom, do you want this Tuscan Raider mask?" I wouldn't just, "Oh no, that's not the one for the white background
But
promo."
those of us
no, thank you.
and we were talking about this over the weekend. Those of us that grew up staring at those trading cards,
Oh
that's
yeah,
what's burned into your memory.
yeah.
And you might look at the final product and just feel like it's a little bit off because it's not the
Yeah.
thing you've that's burned into your brain.
And it's funny, one of the trading cards. So I recently bought. I don't want to mention the toy company because you guys are sponsored, but it was bought from a toy company that throws in a couple of the vintage Star Wars trading cards every time you order from them. And one of the ones that came was a Tuscan Raider, and it's from that same photo shoot,
Oh,
and
no,
it's
that's
that
funny.
exact mask. And every time I see those pictures now, I'm like, I held that in my hands. Like, how weird is that? Our copy of it is so good, and it feels so right, and it's just like. It's just weird. You look at it and you get these weird flashbacks just when you're around this stuff. Even though I know we made it, like it still feels right. Yeah, it's fun.
That's cool.
It is not lost on me how fortunate we are that we get to do
And
this.
is it a little weird for you now that like, and I think you've said this, I think, so if I get this wrong or this is something we can't say, we'll cut it out, but there are things now that you guys have made that you're selling as products, but the lineage of that goes back to things you made for the production, like the Mandalorian Gaffy sticks, right? Like, now you're making that stuff for them, and then you're able to actually sell it.
Yeah, and that is really weird. We were actually talking about that because there's some there's some Star Wars Cantina aliens that the originals aren't in the archives, and while they might be in certain collector hands, and I know where a lot of the stuff is, not all of it would ever be available. For scanning or anything like that. But we have ones that we made that wound up in Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan. Some of the aliens that we did, and it's just kind of like, well, we have those molds. Like, would we ever put out a bust of like, I think it was our Snaggletooth's in there, our Cabe is in there. I don't know if they took a Mosep. I think they did. The band guy turned up in Book of Boba Fett. He was, in the with Max Rebo playing. It's kind of like, could we do that using my old sculpts or our shop's old sculpts in some cases where, like, I think Mike Thomas sculpted the Snaggletooth. I did the band member with Brian Lewis, and Pat worked on the remold of that. Well, whatever. Anyway. So, this range of stuff that we did, technically that's lineage, right? Like that's been in that show. So I think for now we're pushing on as much as we can that has lineage to the old versions of the props. But the Mando Gaffy was just one of those things where it was like, okay, we can't really make too many of A New Hope one. It's a lot of work. It's got all the welding, all of that stuff. The Mando version was a little more streamlined as a production piece. And again, we did have the lineage that we made it there, and it is different from the other one. Like, it looks different. So it's just kind of like, you know what? Let's do it. It can go out at a lower price. It'll give folks an option if they don't get the other one, and it's still a pretty cool piece. So yeah, it is weird to do that though. Like, oh right, we made that for the show. That's weird.
That's funny.
It's cool though.
And the stuff. So when there's someone talking, I'm sorry, I'm talking over them.
You're good.
Okay, good. So what else is in the line? So there's wall decor, like the temple trap thing, which is super cool. Is that a scan from an original or
that one it's based on photos of one of the real props, but that's just a sculpt. And that's basically because that's on the decor side. It's more what we call inspired by. Yeah. That said, really faithful to that original sculpt because that's our style. We didn't vary.
I need 40 of them for my hallway. I'm going to turn
right. Yeah. No, definitely.
Yeah.
You've got to do some variations, different versions of the face and things like that.
Yeah.
I just love those things. We did a magnet version of the one that spits the dart out that hits the torch. and it comes with the little torch with the dart in it.
That's cool.
I absolutely love those sculpts. There's a few of them. We've got good photos of a bunch. Whether or not we do other big ones, we'll have to see. That could be neat.
So we've been talking about bits and pieces that's in the Indy line. What's the whole line? Well, tell us.
Yeah. So we just were talking about the big temple trap wall decor thing. We just been calling that guy Dartface.
Of course, as you do.
Did that. I gave him all the digital, like all the photos and reference on it, and like the first 3D file comes onto my hard drive and it just says Dartface, and I'm like, sold. Like that's what he is. So we did a Dartface magnet as well. That comes with the torch. We talked about that briefly. We got the golden idol magnet, which comes with a pedestal little magnet. There is a funny story about that I can't tell.
The one you told me over the weekend that
yes.
I can't tell?
Sorry, that I can't tell on the air.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
Maybe some years from now we'll be able to share that. It's very funny.
I can support that. It is very fun.
Yeah, but it is. The end result though is it's a really cool set, and then we have the director chairs, which we do that with the Star Wars line. I love that. It's very movie theatery, or movie making kind of vibe, and it's not like a high ticket item. The cool one though is the Steranko art that we were able to do.
I've always loved those Steranko pieces.
Oh God, right?
And he's amazing to begin with. But
of course,
just the fact that this was, his vision is so, it's just, yeah. Is
that the same artwork that ended up on the cover of the board game, or is that a different?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's not this one. It was the other one. It was the one with
desert
the truck.
One. One with the truck is the. Yeah.
Yeah. Although they erased the cigarette on the board game, if I remember.
That's funny.
Yeah. But this was one of those things where as soon as we got the license, I was like, Steranko art, like immediately. It's like us with the concept maquettes. It's like us with the Revenge of the Jedi poster and the Blue Harvest stuff. Like immediately I'm like concept art. And so we hit on these tin signs that we've been doing. These are bigger than the Star Wars ones by a fair bit. I think it's like 17, 18 inches long.
Oh, those are big. Yeah.
And they're just really cool. And to me, there's something about the tin sign version of it feels of the era. You know what I mean? Like it feels like something you'd find in an old gas station hanging on the wall.
Yeah.
All faded and aged.
It's great. Yeah.
And it just, for us, it was like, okay, this is a way to do that art and to put it out there. And it's great. It's got the little embossing. It's not expensive. And there's, it's one of those ones, there's 3 other pieces of that concept art. So if these do well and people respond to it, I would love to do those other ones.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm going to show you quickly. This is my Steranko signature.
Oh, geez.
That book is just massive.
Okay. Now the book
That's
is massive,
amazing.
but this is about, it's about 16 inches top to bottom. And that's how he signed it.
Intense.
Because it's an audio podcast, Todd is holding a book that's so big he can barely hold it.
2
It's
feet
a massive,
tall.
massive book.
Yeah.
This the reprint of the Nick Fury Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. series. I had Steranko sign it several years ago, and it's the largest signature I own. But that's
amazing.
It's awesome.
I mean, he's going to go to a chiropractor after this.
Yeah,
just
oh my God.
lifting that.
It was like
It's
Yep.
almost as big
Jones.
as the way John Rhys Davies signs indie posters. Dave and I found out.
Oh gosh.
Because I have an
no.
indie poster that's got a bunch of signatures on it, and we won't dig into that. It's got Harrison Ford stuff. He signs 3 times larger than anybody.
But
dude,
not
you're
Jim
a supporting
Steranko.
player.
Not bigger than Jim Steranko.
Not bigger than
No,
that.
I'm saying on the poster.
Yeah,
it's
I
like
know,
Karen
I know.
Allen here. It's like this dude.
Steranko would need one of those, like, what is it, like a 6 sheet or something like that? He'd need one of those to sign.
It's like
Yeah, the billboard, exactly.
Yep.
So anyway, that's the initial indie lineup. It is intentionally compact, We did not want to put out, $5,000 worth of indie stuff on one day because we know that not everybody's going to absorb that. But as discussed before, we have a huge list of ideas. From that huge list of ideas, there's probably about 10 or 12 pieces actively in development right now. And I will say this, Nurhachi sold extremely fast, way faster than expected. We are not ignoring that fact. Whatever our next artifact is from Indy, which, well, we know what it's going to be, but we're going to make sure that is something that has a little more availability now that we know there's that much demand for this stuff. And whether that's a timed edition or something where it's a to be determined edition or if it's just a bigger number, we're going to figure that out in the meantime. But look, this is one of the nice things about being a small business is that we can react a little better, I think, than maybe a really big business. We have our model, and I know we know what works for us, and we tend to be optimistic but cautious in how we grow. We want to make sure that everything still stays as good as it is as we go, and that we just consistently are just reaching a few more people at a time. But it's nice that we can. It's so gratifying that we had the reaction we had to Nurhachi, and now we can take that, absorb it, and now whatever the next one is, yes, more of you will have a chance to get it, and I can assure you it will be cool. It's going to be another piece scanned off an original hero prop at the archives, and we're putting a lot of work into making sure it is also the most authentic version of something that's ever been done. So, going to be cool.
And I know not everybody necessarily feels this way, but I would rather miss out on something than have something come out that 6 months later is still available and there was no urgency and no need to buy it because it's just always there. Right. Like I enjoy buying things that there aren't that many of, and I know a lot of other collectors do too. But yeah, I mean, if you miss something, then that just encourages you to be there early the next time.
Right. Yeah, get on the mailing list, right? Yeah, well, it's always a balancing act because we know, the small edition size is part of the value to these things. The fact that they sell out is part of the value. So, I don't see us doing big open editions. Certainly not on the collectible stuff. In fact, that's, to me, like I said, it's part of the value. So I think the similar maybe to, I almost said what it was. Similar maybe to our May 25th release, where it's like a short timed edition, something that is maybe even upwards of a week. I don't know that I would do much more than that though, if we were doing it as a timed edition.
Yeah.
I think that still gives it that urgency to a degree.
I was going to say, that totally gives it the urgency.
Well, you kind of did that with the chess
100-piece
pieces, right?
edition, but
I know you did the 77 sets of chess pieces, but the other pieces, you kind of did that, right? You left it open for a certain amount of time.
And we left it open for like a month and a half, actually, which was, we felt a little too long at the end of it. But the results were great. We wound up, we sold a decent number of those other 2-packs, and it gave people a chance. Like, the reason we made it such a long run is we didn't expect the signature edition to sell out so quick. If we knew that was going to sell out, in 25 minutes, we would have then made the timed edition only like a week or two. In our heads, we're like, well, we're going to have these for a month, so the other ones have to be at least a month and a half. You know?
That's funny. Yeah.
But I do think, timed editions is a good thing. I think, there might even still be some mix. Maybe it's like a timed edition, but no more than 200 pieces or 250 pieces or some number that is big but not huge. We'll see. It's especially with Indy, it's all new to us. So
I feel like we talked about before, it's definitely not a kid's toy thing. I think it's a big collector market. It feels like, Star Wars, as awesome as it is almost overwhelming. With Indy, it's not, and that's what's nice.
But it's an underserved collector's market too, right?
And the whole nature of Indy is artifacts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like Star Wars isn't about artifacts, okay?
Oh, yeah,
right.
Indy is, and
Yeah.
so that's kind of it. That
It really does make them special pieces.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's like
It's
they're
not a
literally
lot.
sought after in the movie. You
that's
know?
what I'm saying. Or they're peripheral, but this is what it's all about. It's about collector of rare antiquities.
We collect them. Daryl, who
It's one way to say it.
Our friend Daryl, who you may know, collects.
Oh,
he's
yeah.
got a whole shelf.
Yes.
And we've always talked like, what are the indie things you need to have? And I've got the pocket knife that's sort of and I actually made the little antidote vials because no one sold them, and stuff. There's not that much stuff. That's what's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's like you can go as deep as you want. Like literally the pocket knife, like you're literally going inside his satchel.
Yep.
And, I remember back years ago replicating his little notebook from in the satchel.
Oh,
that he
yeah.
goes and checks his notes when he's doing the headpiece.
And there's someone who sells the little brush.
Of course. Yeah.
Right. And he's the lighter. Like there's a lot of little handheld items.
Because you see the pocket knife when he's about to free Marion in the tent,
right,
and then he closes it up. And they still make that same model. Anyway.
Oh, that's great.
While we're on Indy, on the other side of the business, and if you can't talk about it, fine, but we know you've restored or conserved or whatever a ton of Star Wars stuff. Is there a lot of Indy stuff that's come through? Some
of it's in a big private collection.
Okay.
But we've definitely done our share of Indy stuff. There were these chickens that came through that really were the top Indiana Jones piece we've ever had.
I'm sure. This wasn't a plug for my chicken skewer, and I'm waiting for the chicken skewer magnet. I'm sure there'll be a big hit.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It could be a skewer with 3 removable magnets. Yeah.
Yes,
that would be
great. That would be awesome.
And it comes with a henchman to stick it into.
Yeah. You haven't seen the other chicken skewer, have you? Because I think there's only 2.
I haven't. No, okay. No. You remain unique with that one.
Yeah.
But we've seen everything from a full head to toe original Indy costume to literally just about every prop from the movie that's in private hands. Like
really?
Whether or not we've touched all of it, we've encountered it in some of these things where we've gone to folks' houses and helped them set up displays or do theming and stuff, or where we've done actual restoration of things or conservation or just displays where you're making mounts for things and stuff like that. Not a ton of it has come through the shop directly. It seems like it's mostly been on-site stuff, but it's funny. Brandon's actually out there. He's got the truck chase jacket. I think he's got like a screen matched hero, like Harrison Ford jacket from the truck chase sequence. And I know that that's out there now. So we did the conservation form for that. We made just had to get the fit right and all of that stuff, which is a really challenging thing. And we were also working remotely on it because that wasn't a jacket he wanted to be mailing around. So, we did, he had a replica made of it, which we got to work with. And then we got our form to where we thought it looked pretty good, sent it back. He put the jacket on it. He made notes about where it fit and where it didn't. It came back to us. We added padding. He sent it back, and it's worth it for a piece like that, right? You invest when it's something like that. And it is a jacket that fits in a really unique way. It's got the sleeves, the hem for the shoulder sleeve is very loose and it hangs over the shoulder. It doesn't hit at the shoulder like where it would on a t-shirt. The collar sits very far off your neck. It's made to hang open, so the chest measurement of the jacket is probably smaller than you would think for someone at that size. Sure.
That's interesting.
There's a lot of elements that you have to consider when you're doing those kind of things. And we're lucky in that we constantly are doing this with movie garments, and we really put a ton of thought into not just, does this on paper fit, but does it fit and look right? Does it drape? Does this hang the right way? Is it supported right? And that's a different thing. But yeah, It's amazing some of the indie stuff that's out there. It's absolutely incredible. David Oliver over in the UK, Prop Masters, was the resource for a ton of stuff from Temple of Doom and Last Crusade. Believe he was connected with, I want to say it was Barry Wilkerson. I might be saying that name wrong, but I believe he was connected with the original Prop Master for those two. And so, anybody who's got a Temple of Doom beetle, anybody who's got a monkey head out there from Temple of Doom, any of the thuggy swords, all of that stuff that came through Dave originally over at Prop Masters, which it's a great, original prop site, very reputable, been around forever, really good guy, worth checking out. Good person to know.
Cool.
I've got a question for you, and this is just focused on the things that you have already done, because I know you can't talk about things that aren't announced, but of everything that you have done as a product for Regal so far, what's been the biggest challenge to get right, that where you finally felt like it was where it needed to be?
I can kind of answer that two ways. Let's see here. The Nurhachi was actually the toughest one to get right in terms of finish. The paint colors that we ended up having to use versus the way they actually look when they go on the piece make no damn sense at all. And I believe I literally just packed up my paint table where I had all the different prototypes I was tinkering with on this. And I had 13 prototypes of that on my desk at one point, of just trying all different things. Pardon me. It also has variations in terms of the level of translucency in the material, the color of the material, whether it's very yellow, very white, very brown. So we had, material sample concerns and figuring that side of it out. We had casting concerns and figuring out how you make that work with the clear casting so that you're getting, consistency where you need out of that. And then we had paint, where you have to get it prototyped right and get it mastered right in a way that, looks good and is approvable and has that feel, has that authenticity of feel where it's, the right type of colors in the right order applied the right way. And just also adding aging to it, we didn't, even within the movie, it's got a level of aging to it. Although in the movie with the color grading, it almost just looks like it's got black smeared on it in some shots. It has some darkness to it, but it's not like jet black on there. But yeah, that was definitely the toughest one overall to get right. And I'm very proud of where it got. That was a really good feeling when we got there. And then it was like when we could do a few of them in a row and be like, okay, this is now consistent. This is right. Because that's your ultimate test, It's like there's so many times where it's like, we'll get this on the maquettes where it's like you do the first paint master to match the look of the paint. But then you have to do a process paint master that repeats what you just did in the right order. Because if you start putting dark colors over light colors, that's one thing. If you start putting light colors over dark colors, it changes how those colors look. And so you have to come up with the order of things that make sense with the colors you're using. And if they're not right, then you've got to alter your colors. And so for all of the maquettes, it usually starts with a paint master that is purely for look. Then it's a process paint master. How do we achieve that look in a repeatable way? And what are the steps to get there so that every one of them looks right? And then it's a few samples to make sure like, okay, this works. And so, yeah, when we got to the sample part of Nurhachi and really it was when I painted the second one is when I felt good. Like I looked at the first one, I was like, this looks freaking great. And then it was just kind of like, okay, give me the, get my paints laid out, give me another one. And, when that one finished, it was like, oh, okay, we can relax. We did it, I'm trying to think. The other one, was not so much a challenge of the reproduction or of getting the look right. but it was the challenge of getting it reproducible. And that was the vest on the Mr. Big guy from the chess set. And we went through so many incarnations of that and process and trying different things because the original was made from sheets of thin slip latex that were brushed into a mold that Phil made off of a taxidermy lizard that he had.
As one does. Yeah.
Like you do. And then he just cut it into the shape of a shirt and put it on there, and it wrinkled up a certain way, and it looked cool. I wanted to hit on a way. Initially, we thought we would do the same kind of thing, and then just make a shirt and literally kind of fold it over, and you'd have to stitch it on or something.
You bought up every lizard from all the pet
That's
stores.
every lizard. That's how you do it. No, even better. Ultimately, in talking to Phil about how he did this, he goes, "Well, I still got the lizard. Do you want to borrow it?"
Sure.
And so, of course,
because he never throws anything away, right? I've seen the documentaries; he's got everything.
But luckily, Katie over at his shop had she was kind of one of the people that really did a lot of the finishing work on those guys, and was like, they were like her little babies for a little while, along with obviously Frank Apolito's work on it and other folks at the shop. But she had still had the mold that they made, because they made a new mold off of that lizard to make the shirt for the new ones for the movies. She had that mold, and Phil sent it to me. So it was like, oh, okay, here we go. Like, now that's our starting point. But the question became like, how do we get it repeatable? And for me, I really wanted to capture the way the wrinkling was and make that a repeatable element as well. So, we wound up essentially almost scanning the mold. It wasn't quite a scan. It was a more of a process where you make a casting and then you do some stuff to it and then import it a different way. But we managed to bring it in as a texture and apply it to a digitally sculpted shirt that's already in the right position and wraps nicely and drapes nicely. Then it could be made out of a different material that wasn't going to be thin latex that would deteriorate immediately, because that's what's happening to the original shirt in the archives. That's now, really rigid and tough to work with. And it was a challenge for Phil's guys when they were recreating the stuff. Then it was finding out the material that would work, figuring out molds that would work. How do we output something digital in a way that could make a piece that could then be molded? And we wound up really pushing ourselves in terms of new ways of using digital, at least for us, where we were outputting. We did tests where we output molds rather than the part. Then we did tests where we were outputting the part in a flexible material so we could mold it in a material that works with an absorption type of material. We wound up with like a non-degrading neoprene, which is a synthetic type of latex for the ultimate shirt. So it's as close to that original material as you can, but it's going to last, and it's always in the right position. And it worked out pretty good. And then, of course, we realized that we have two different versions of Mr. Big, because one of them's holding his hands in the air, and the shirt has to be a different pose. So we wound up having to do all of that twice.
Well, that's the one chess piece that I actually do have. I'm looking at it over here, and it's amazing that all of that went into making that, but it's pretty cool. The end result is awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, people probably would not think about that much work going into that.
Cool. All right. Well, so as you're listening to this, yesterday was May the 4th. So we know you guys, every Star Wars, it's one of our days. That's the real day, not like the fake aliens day. And
right.
There's always somebody's got a day.
There's a Back to the Future day. Yeah, there's a day for all the
Star Wars is really the only one. So you guys had anything special coming out for May the 4th?
So by the time this airs, I will be passed out somewhere from whatever happened to us on May the 4th and the 5th. So, if you're listening to this, we will have just released 4 new Star Wars decor items. Really kind of fun, kitschy kind of stuff. And then we also have a sale going, and it runs the whole weekend. It is while supplies last, so I don't know what'll be left by the time this is airing, but it, oh gosh, I should have written this down. Let's see. So it's 40% off of the, probably biggest number we've ever done on this, the mini mythosaur skull that we do, and also the mudhorn version of that. And with the mythosaur kind of playing a bigger part in Mando.
It's a real thing now.
It's a little timely. And then I believe it's 20% off all of the magnets that we do, which is there's a substantial number of those there. And then there's a couple of other decor pieces. I want to say that we're also doing a big discount on the vintage carry case wall art that we did based on the really cool vintage paintings that were on the carrying cases for Star Wars, Empire, and Jedi. So yeah, take advantage. Go check out the site. Go to regalrobot.com. Go to the Star Wars section. There'll be a thing in the news, probably a top bar too, that will take you to where you get the coupon codes and check it out. And then for the new items, so obviously the sales exclude new items. I'll say that, but we have 2 new magnets. These are all 40th anniversary. We're calling it like 4 on the 4th for the 40th. It's a Scout Trooper bust as a magnet. It is Logray, the Ewok medicine man, as a magnet. It is a Rancor, bronze Rancor with a towel ring for your bathroom to go with the Jabba's Dais gargoyle towel ring that we do, and a skull of a Rancor, a mini skull about 4 or 5 inches tall. All really, really neat stuff. Christian at the shop did the work on the Rancor along with Gordon Tarpley. Christian sculpted the Logray. Sean Field sculpted the Scout Trooper, and Tony Cipriano and Christian together sculpted the Rancor skull. And they're all really proud of all of those pieces.
Cool. That's fun. It's funny. They really didn't make this big a deal. Not you of Empire's 40th. Right?
I think it's yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's something to do with the fact that we had COVID hit at the same time and it canceled Celebration that year and stuff.
I remember like Hot Toys had some things that they released, but and maybe Hasbro did a few things, but I don't remember it being like Lucasfilm put Return of the Jedi's back in theaters right now. As a 40th anniversary.
Mark just saw it today up at school. He said,
nice.
I'm not saying, trying to think. I don't know if he's seen many of the originals in the theaters. I've taken them to when they've come out, but they haven't been out in the theaters for a while.
Yeah. No, it's and I like that. I think that I saw that they were putting Raiders back in the theater at some point in the next little bit. The fact that they can do digital delivery on this stuff and not have to be printing reels and shipping them around, it makes it so much possible to do this stuff. Like, please keep doing it. We love this.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Tom, just looking at the magnets, I think you're missing a marketing opportunity here. I think you need a 5-pack of severed limbs.
That's right. Well, we've got, how many do we have in there already? Like, we've got a bunch of the limbs, right?
And I think those are awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Even the Wampa arm. It's like, if you lost a limb, it's on here. It's just great.
What's funny is at Celebration, we actually had a 2-pack for Walrus Man, and it had the alternate hand because he has 2 different types of hands with the behind the scenes.
But
it's the sort of thing where that was one of those ones that took some asking. Like, we didn't just get that right out of the gate. Like, hey guys, we want to do the chopped off limbs of Star Wars. The what now?
Luke's hand, and I was like, okay.
I
had to get them on a good day.
It is a thing. I mean, everyone's getting limbs chopped off.
Yep.
Exactly. Like, it's totally a thing. Yeah.
Well, Dave has a great story about when he bought the Anakin figure from Attack of the Clones, right, Dave?
Oh, so before the movie came out.
Yeah, before the movie came out, he opened the figure and the arm.
Taking it out of the package. We're in his office. He's taking it out of the package, and he's going to set it up on his desk. And he says, "Oh, I just broke it." The arm came off, and he's like, "This isn't broken."
Oh no!
And it was before the movie came out. It was
it was like, wait, this isn't broken. Oh,
Not cool, Hasbro. Not cool.
Well, and they had made the same mistake. That was what, Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
And they made the same mistake with Phantom Menace on the soundtrack. That came out.
Oh yeah, Qui-Gon
Jinn. Like, what do you mean? You hardly got to know him.
My big thing with Phantom Menace was on the old AOL chat boards.
Yeah.
I was on. It was either a vintage Star Wars figure or movie prop group, one of them. And someone, just to be an asshole, posted 2 posts in a row. And the first one said, and this is like a week before the movie, Qui-Gon dies, Darth Maul gets chopped in half.
Ugh.
Those were literally, sorry, everybody at home, spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler.
So those were literally the titles. So like if you just were looking at the group, that was what you saw. And immediately, for whatever reason, I was like I knew it was true. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one of those, like, I never for a minute doubted it, and I watched the movie literally waiting for that to happen the whole time in the back of my mind, going like, here it comes. Okay, now, yep, there, now it's happening. Like, it's just, that sucked.
I had
that was the beginning of people being assholes on the internet.
And I had
Right.
that
Yeah,
Force
yeah.
Awakens. Somebody's sister who I was friends with on Facebook posted, I can't believe that they kill Han Solo. And I'm like,
come on.
I fucking went opening day. Like, you're posting this an hour before I'm going to see the movie.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah.
Well, Tom, we could be doing this all night, and we will.
I think we have. Yeah.
And I think we
It's
have,
actually the next day already, guys.
It
Yeah.
is.
But it doesn't help that you guys ask, like, Tom, what are you working on? And then it's like 2 hours later, you know?
Yeah, we kind of know what the triggers are. We just chose to pull them, so.
Right, yeah. I definitely blame you guys, so that's fine.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
That's,
we'll take it.
that's fair enough. But thank you so much for coming out. Always like talking with you. Always like hanging out with you. Always love seeing what's going on in the shop. Not that everyone
much
has
appreciated.
that opportunity. It's awesome.
Let me know when we're going to put together the regular Joe sandwich shop.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
I'm
We're
down.
going to need you to do the decor at the shop, so.
Yeah.
I'm picturing,
I'm thinking
the
giant foam hoagie for like over the door. Like it's just big.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Yeah. And then the different menu items will be named for people. The Tom and then the Dave.
Right, yeah.
Very
Pretty
simple.
straightforward,
sandwiches.
really.
Can you do a giant sandwich that looks like a Star Destroyer?
Yeah.
That would be great. Yeah, or like some kind of wedge salad or something.
Yeah, like a Star Destroyer with luncheon meats hanging out the side. I'm thinking,
with an olive on a
Right, for the little tanks on top there that get blown up.
Perfect.
Totally. Yeah, that's amazing. There's something here. I think we could certainly name things after us, or we could, just find different movie stuff or toy stuff to name it after.
Well, now I'm thinking it would be more like a slice of pizza, because that's the shape of the Star Destroyer. You start with a slice of pizza. But
it's a Star Wars slice of pizza with like a little floating piece of sausage over the back to be the bridge.
I could just see the cease and desist letters coming.
That's right.
Fast and furious.
Yep.
So I know you've mentioned it. So regalrobot.com,
TomSpinaDesigns.com,
Facebook,
YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all of that, Pinterest. It's at Tom Spina Designs or at Regal Robot. And definitely, if you're on Facebook, just look up Regal Robot Collector Showcase, and that group will come up. And that's where like the really fun stuff is going these days. So yeah, please join us.
And if you found this episode of our podcast because you like Tom and never knew who we were before, use this opportunity to like and subscribe and leave a review and do all those things that we never ask anybody to do. But
you should do that.
We always forget. But
smash that like button, people.
Yes, and please leave us a review on
476 other episodes.
Apple Podcasts and make it good and say nice things about us. That would be great.
Yeah,
sure.
Leave us a review on iTunes. That's a thing still, I think.
And you know what? I mean, Barry, you're in the group. You should share this in the group when it goes live. This is relevant content to the Regal Robot Facebook group.
Perfect. Well, thank you again, Tom.
Synergy.
Yes.
Appreciate everything.
Oh, no, thank you. Yeah, always fun chatting with you guys. I can't wait till the next time we get to do it in person.
Yes, and we look forward to all the cool stuff that's coming out.
Thank you.
And thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.